Are we all set?
Just a sec. We are all set. And you want Brian Williams in? Okay.
Yeah, that
First
would be
case.
fine. That would be fine. He's the first case. There's
Okay.
some preliminary matters to take care of first, but he can certainly be here for that.
Okay. Mr. Williams is coming in. There you go.
Okay, we are ready.
Yes, sir. You can go ahead and call the meeting to order and take care of your preliminary business.
Good morning, all. This meeting of the Akron Vacant Commercial Industrial Building Appeals Board for September 9th, 2020 will now come to order. I'd like to read a short statement here to begin. This board hears two types of cases involving particular property. The first being appeals of notices and orders to comply, and the second being reports of hazardous buildings from this all will be from the Director of the Department of Systems. Representatives of the city, owners, other people in control of the property, neighbors, and other interested parties will be recognized and given an opportunity to be heard concerning each particular property involved. Any person appearing today that intends to speak at the hearing on a particular property will be sworn in at the time to attest to the truth of their testimony. Our order of presentation shall be as follows. One, the city will present a summary of the history of the property. Two, those speaking in favor of the appeal or in favor of rehabilitating the property will be heard. Third, those speaking against the appeal or against rehabilitating the property will be heard. And finally, those in favor will have an opportunity to respond to the comments of those against. Members of the board can ask questions at any time upon being recognized by the chair. And that was that. To begin our agenda, we have the first item, which is a motion to suspend the rules of this board requiring in-person attendance, in-person participation, and in-person voting, being that we're doing this via Zoom. Anyone care to make a motion to suspend the rules?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules of the board meetings for in-person participation and in-person voting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. So we will proceed. Next item is approval of the minutes of August 12th board meeting. Members of the board, have we had a chance to review those?
Yes.
Anyone care to move to approve?
I move to approve the minutes from the August 12th meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are unanimously approved from August 12th. Moving to administrative case hearings then. Our first item on the agenda is case number 18-20. The address is 1079 South Arlington Street.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. First case, 0018-20, 1079 South Arlington Street. This property is vacant, dilapidated, police activity, tax delinquent, and not registered in the VBR. The deteriorated conditions of this property makes it a public nuisance and a blight and safety hazard to the neighborhood. It is tax delinquent in the amount of $3,072.87.
No. I have any proof of that? I have the proof. I have paid all my taxes. There must be
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. And note that there are a ton of fines issued here.
I'm up to date.
Apparently no response to that. All right, do we have anyone to speak in favor?
Speak in favor of keeping the property, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so the building, sure.
Okay. My name's Brian J. Williams. I'm an attorney at law. With me is my client, Mr. Akram Yosefi, who's the owner of the building. He should probably be sworn in to give testimony under
Yes,
oath
please.
as required by the rules.
Mr. Yusefi, could you raise your right hand?
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Yosefi, will you, are you the owner of 1079 South Arlington Street in the city of Akron?
Yes, sir.
How long have you owned that property?
I would most likely about 20 years.
Okay. Is the property vacant?
No,
Okay. Tell us, is the property currently leased by someone?
yes,
Who is that individual?
the name is Gus Till.
Okay. And is there a pending lease agreement that you and Mr. Tell have entered into that he's about to sign to formalize your relationship?
Yes, I have a temporary contract signed with them. And the whole contract has been printed and his lawyer is going to review and sign it, yes.
Okay. How long has he resided in the property?
He has been there probably about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. Prior to that, was the property vacant?
No,
Who was the tenant at that time?
Anthony Fisher.
Okay, and he became delinquent in his obligations for renting the property, correct?
Yes,
And as a result of that, did you proceed to file a forcible entry and detainer action in the Akron Municipal Court?
yes,
Case number 20 CVG 2727.
yes, sir.
And as a,
That is when he was evicted.
all right. We'd ask the board to take judicial notice of this case number, which was filed July the 14th of 2020, where the magistrate made findings of facts and conclusion of law that Mr. Fisher was delinquent and that a writ of eviction should issue. But we offer that to verify Mr. Yosefi's testimony that the property was in fact occupied and not vacant. Mr. Yosefi, it's been stated that you are delinquent in your tax obligations. Do you have an answer to that?
To the current tax, and probably there was one time payment plan, and I am up to date with that payment plan too.
All right. Have you received any notices from the Summit County Fiscal Office that you're delinquent?
No, in fact, they told me I am even up to October to be my current, to pay my current one. I already, as far as I know, I have already paid it.
What about the condition of the property? Can you speak to to those issues that were raised?
When it was leased with Anthony Fisher, I had to hire somebody to cut the grass. I had somebody to collect all those debris and collect them. But inside, the tenant was responsible.
Okay. And are you, as part of your agreement with Mr. Tell, the new tenant, are the two of you taking action to improve the interior condition of the property?
Yes, sir. We have already all in agreement that any repair, any improvement, I will pay 2/3 and the Gus Till would pay 1/3.
And do you have a timetable for these repairs to be completed?
3 months.
All right. Okay. And other than this notice of this hearing that we're attending, have you received any other type of notice from a governmental agency that the property was in poor condition or causing a public nuisance?
I received a notice that it is vacant. I went to the office and I told them it's not vacant, but they told me that, is it open 7 days, 6 days or 5 days a week? I said, I don't know. It's a party. Could be open 1 day, 10 days, but still they charged me $300 at that
Okay.
time.
Okay. But, so the purpose of this building is a party center.
Yes,
All right. And the tenant will conduct activity as that tenant gets business.
available, right.
Okay. And then if there's anything else from the city of Akron that they require you to do, are you prepared to do that to make sure that the property is safe and habitable and not a public nuisance?
Absolutely. I have done and I will do.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation.
Can I add one more thing, sir?
Go ahead, Mr. Yusefi.
One, I did apply for, I paid $2,000 that Mr. Fisher did not pay the money for the water. I paid about 3 weeks ago. And I saw my telephone that there is a call from the water department. As soon as I'm done, I will take care of that.
Okay.
Okay, that's your presentation then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to follow the timeline. So what day was it that you evicted the tenant in the court action you referred to?
You want me to respond to that?
Yes, please.
Okay. The July 14th, 2020 was the date that the magistrate made the decision.
And you have a new tenant that's supposed to be coming in.
The new tenant started, they set up a kind of an informal relationship August the 15th. I prepared a lease that Mr. Yusefi has given to Mr. Tell, the tenant. Mr. Tell is, as Mr. Yusefi said, Mr. Tell and his attorney are reviewing it for any changes or modifications that they want to make, but we anticipate that being signed in the very near future. If the city wants a copy of that to verify what we're saying, we would be happy to give you a signed copy.
All right. I guess my next question is for Mr. Johnson. I note that 3 contacts were made according to the information here. What was the nature of those contacts, and was it direct contact?
I had direct contact with the owner about a year ago and inspected the property, and he made the same claim that he had a lease and the tenant was delinquent in the lease agreement. Recently,
Mr. Johnson, can I stop you just for a minute? I want to
Sure.
swear you in. Should have done that previously. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give and that you have given so far this morning is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
But the city of Akron stands with its initial readings, with the exception that it's just been brought to my attention that since this report was prepared, his taxes were paid. Okay. And I refer the board and Mr. Chairman to the synopsis with the long history of issues that the city of Akron has documented with this property.
Thank you. It is quite extensive. Okay, I guess back to Mr. Yusefi and Mr. Williams. What is to be the nature of this new tenant? What is the nature of their business?
The nature of this business is going to be a kitchen, a party, and
I'm sorry, what?
a party center for
Party center.
different occasion, graduation, birthday party, wedding, if it's possible, that sort of thing.
You also make mention of some type of kitchen use.
Yes, it has a kitchen.
Okay, well, we have quite a list here of failures to comply, high grass and weeds, litter, that kind of thing, going back quite a ways. What, do you have anything to say about that?
Sir, if there is any grass, the city immediately would charge $700, $400, $700, $500. If it goes more than 6 inches, the city will put the sign there and charge 700 up to $700 for each cut.
Okay.
And there is no proof that I did it. Every one of them, I hired somebody. Every time I hired somebody to cut the grass and clean up those things.
What's the present condition of the grass?
It's the present condition at the most 2 inches, 3 inches.
And are you prepared to?
Yes, we take care of it every other week.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. York?
could I ask a few questions of Mr. Yusefi?
Absolutely, please proceed.
Mr. Yusefi, this is John York, attorney for the city of Akron.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a current certificate of occupancy for the building from Summit County?
I'm not quite sure about that. I must have had, because one guy had it for 11 years.
Who was that?
His name was Morio, and he is still one of my tenants. Not on this building, but he is my tenant. He is renting a house. He was there for 11 years, and
But
he was
he the owner? at the
never
time?
penalized or sued for the city or the state.
How long have you owned this building, sir?
I'm most likely about 20 years.
Okay. And what renovations have you made since you became the owner?
Okay. There was no asphalt on that building. I asphalted the whole thing, and I hired the surveyor to do the blueprint, everything according to the city law, and city came and approved. As far as the floor is concerned, the whole floor has been tiled. As far as the outside is concerned, he plastered, even though it was brick building, but that guy plastered it because the way he wanted. And the let's say the handicap in the back, I paid $1,300 just to do the print for that, and I made that curve for the handicap. If anything that was required, I took care of it. And the door going from the basement, coming from the basement, I probably that did cost me about maybe $4,000 or $5,000 because the city wanted the specific way and specific people hired to do those things. It was not easy to asphalt and blacktop and have the drain line. It was very hard, but I did whatever the city wanted. Now,
Did you get approval for all that work? You got permits and approval?
yes, the approval, and I still have the print, the blueprint for everything.
Mhm.
And also, you made me a mistake. The drain was also, all the engineers from the city were there, approved what sort of catch bases should be, what sort of drain line should be there. It was all taken care of with the approval of city engineering firm.
And what was this building before it?
Before that was a church. And
Turned
at
a
that
church-
time, the
Turned
basement
the church into a party center.
Huh?
You
I'm
turned a
sorry.
church into a party center.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, I spent a lot of money to make a child care center, and they took my money. People ran away, and they took my money. That it's not an easy job. It is very, very hard job, and I put a lot of energy and a lot of effort to get it where it is. It was not overnight to bring, but still, there is no, also, the ceiling completely brand, we put the ceiling. It was not easy to have all those ceilings. A crew of people work there day and night to take care of that ceiling.
Yeah.
Also,
Sir,
there is no
I
leaks.
think what you have said so far is you're not sure you have a certificate of occupancy. Are you prepared to get a certificate of occupancy?
Definitely, anything the law.
During the 3 months that you're proposing? During these 3 months, you're going to have all the repairs done and you're going to get a certificate of occupancy from Summit County? Is that a yes?
Yes, definitely means yes, sir. Sorry.
Mr.
Mr. York, if I could ask you, I don't know what the board's going to do, but assuming that Mr. Giuseppe is given a chance to keep leasing this building, if there's requirements such as the certificate of occupancy and other things, I would appreciate, as his attorney, receiving the list of what the city wants and the timetable so we can comply.
Well, likely, I mean, if the board were to consider granting time, they're going to want to hear from your client what he can do when. They would likely state what things they expect to do in a certain period of time. So your client will probably be able to hear those things today.
That's fine.
If it decides to go that route. Mr. Chairman, could I ask a few questions of Mr. Dixon here for the fire department?
Yes, please.
Officer Dixon,
Yes,
could you state your name and your rank, sir?
Jamie Dixon, firefighter, Akron Fire Department.
And sir, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Sir, we've heard testimony from Mr. Giuseppe that this was previously a church and now it's a party center.
Mhm.
Would that change of use require a certificate of occupancy to be obtained from Summit County?
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Okay. Is that because the standards are different for those two types of uses?
No, the city with the fire code is requiring all businesses in the city of Akron to have a certificate of occupancy.
Okay. So regardless of the change of use, just because it's going to be an occupied building, it needs to have a certificate.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Would the fire department have any involvement or, I guess, plan review or inspections as part of obtaining the certificate of occupancy?
Yes, we'll have both of those. We'll have to do an interior inspection of the building, and then we'll also review the plans when Summit County sends them to us.
Okay. Okay. I don't have anything further. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Dixon a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Dixon, there was a tag for inspection on July the 6th, 2020.
Yes.
Were that inspection allowed to happen?
No, we have not been inside the building yet. The last time an inspector was inside the building, looks like it was September 10th of 2018. There was 26 violations. They went back twice in 2018 when unable to get inside, then twice in 2019 unable to get inside. Then they ended up closing the inspection files because they thought the building was vacant at the time.
Okay. Were you able to contact the owner?
No, we have not heard from them.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have another question for city employee with the engineering bureau had issued numerous fines. I'd like to know, were any of the fines collected?
We don't have that information, and I'm not sure if there's anyone from zoning on the line to be able to answer that question.
Okay. Mr. Yusefi,
Yes, sir.
pertaining to the inspection tags, were you notified or did you not receive them or what?
Inspection tag for what?
The inspect your building. In July of this year, July the 6th of this year, your building was tagged for inspection. And they said haven't been inspected in 2 years.
At that time, July, it was occupied, and if there was any notice, the tenant whether ignored it, whether throw it away, and I am not aware of any of it. July 2020, it was occupied by Mr. Fisher.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Polk?
No.
How about other members of the board have any other questions or? Well, at minimum, this building appears to be suffering from severe neglect. The owner stated it's leased, but it surely seems to be vacant and unoccupied to me. He stated he seems committed to fixing this up over the next 3 months, but I'm just wondering where he's been for the last couple of years. Those are my comments. Mr. Williams, Mr. Yusefi, you can respond if you like.
I think, Mr. Yusefi, when did Mr. Fisher start to rent his property?
May 2019.
Okay. And then he was there until July of this year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. During that time, did you ignore anything from the city that you were supposed to do?
I always, whatever I could, if I saw the door, I absolutely replaced the door.
Okay.
Broken. If I saw the gas, the grass, I took care of it. Debris, I took care of it. People dumped there a lot of things, I took care of it.
Okay. So whatever's gone on in the past that is apparently not good, according to Mr. Rowland, are you prepared to turn the page on that and now be committed to make sure that this property is up to the city code and it's not a public nuisance?
Sir, that is our livelihood. I know it's not easy to, but we have already before, not because I have to from the city. It's my obligation, it's my way that I have to either take care of it or get rid of it.
Okay.
Definitely, it's all written between me and Gus. You are welcome to inspect it today. What we have discussed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Johnson.
Currently, at last time I was at the property, there's some debris, brush, and garbage dumped in the back of the parking lot. I've been by this property numerous of times over the last several months. I have seen no activity. I did speak with a person who said he was hired by the owner to put the property up for sale. And there was a notice for sale of the property there. The last time I posted a notice there for this hearing, the realtor stopped and said that he was no longer representing the owner for sale of this property. I don't know if that means anything, but it sure seems like there's
Can I answer that?
some confusion going on there.
You want to,
Yeah, I can answer that.
Is the property for sale?
Sir, I did not get the money for that at all since 2 months he paid me, and he was telling me that he was a pastor, and they made thing going on, and he told me they collected $6 million within those 2 weeks. I trusted him. He said, you will get your money, you will get money in July. July went to December that I had to file. And he has a crew of the people threatening. I came to the point to sell it, and he was threatening the realtor, those people. And the realtor gave up on it. Yes, everything you say is true, but I was threatening by Mr. Fisher and his crew.
so it's not for sale now.
No, it's not for sale now.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mr. Pope.
Yes, the question is for Mr. Dixon. Other than putting a notice for inspection on a building, do you also reach out and mail any information out to the owner if you have an address about the inspection?
No, we have not done that.
Is that something you normally don't do, or?
No, that's not something we typically do.
Okay, okay. And Mr. Johnson, when you ride by and inspect these buildings, do the debris that you see seem to be the same debris from your first time there and your last time?
The last 3 times that I've been there over probably a 4-week period, has been the same debris. I believe you guys should have pictures of it.
Yes, that's what I'm looking at, these pictures, and are the debris that's in these pictures are in the same location or in the same amount or even more or less?
Seems to be the same amount, and it's definitely in the same location.
Can I ask a question, sir?
One moment, please.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's all the questions I have.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Yusefi.
Did you clean up the trash?
Here it is. The guy came and opened, I have a police report that he took $70,000 of my belonging from the kitchen, sound system, furniture, and everything he could. When they brought their truck, they materials such as and stuff on that. I have filed police report, and police knows about it. And
What about cleaning it up?
cleaning up, I tried my best to do it, and the next day grow something else. Yes, probably sometimes if it was behind, I did not go all the way and check everything. And I was assuming that the guy will take care of it, and they did not.
Yeah.
And I was expecting that that eviction will go a lot. No, this is not the first eviction I filed against Mr. Fisher. Previously, I filed one and I was denied. The eviction was denied. This is the second time I filed. And I was hoping that he will get out of there and I will take care of it properly, as I did the last 16 or 17 years.
What's the agreement between you and Mr. Tell regarding the outside, to make sure that the outside is maintained, that there's not trash that the city would see in an inspection?
We didn't get that part, but we did get the roof. Even though it's not leaking, we have to take care of the roof. Electric has been done. The plumbing is in process of being finished. And
Okay,
yeah,
so
that would be my priority, this outside. That bothers you, that will be my priority to take care of.
Okay. Any other members of the board have any questions for anyone? For the record, is anyone here to speak against? Anyone else here to speak for? Mr. Youssef, I have one last question for you.
Sure.
Are you capable of getting this done, what you're saying, or are you in over your head here?
Sir, and the lawyer is aware of it. He wrote the contract and I told him it has to be done in 3 months. All the repairs, all whatever is required has to be done. It's not an infinite time. We did set the limit on it. And Attorney William is aware of it because he wrote the contract. And I gave it to them, the written contract yesterday. And it is there mentioned that everything repaired, everything must be done in
Okay, thank you.
3 months.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
are there any conditions under which the city would be okay with allowing time to get this fixed up here? Mr. Johnson?
Give me 1 minute, sir.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
the city would agree to a 30-day review. He must clean the trash up around the building in the parking lot, allow the fire inspector and myself inside to inspect the entire building within that 30-day period.
what about registration?
And register it, yes, sorry. Yeah, for 2020, he must register, because in our opinion, that building is vacant.
I agree. Anything else?
No, sir.
Mr. Williams, do you understand those conditions? If the board were to so grant a 30-day extension of time? And
obviously cleaning up the trash is something that can be done. It should be done. That's easily done within 30 days. The registration can be done. Does Mr. Johnson have any other expectations in terms of improvements that the city wants to see within that 30 days? I mean, our timetable was 90 days based upon my discussion with Mr. Yousefi and the tenant.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that, we can't give that information until we see inside the building. Fire needs to do their inspection. I need to see, what the conditions of the building are before we can give any sort of expectation of what can be done in 60, 90, or whatever. But in that 30-day period, I would hope that Mr. Yousefi would not only clean up the trash, but do as much as he can.
Right. Fair enough. Okay, that's fine.
I would just also, I'd point out, just so everybody's on the same page, any repairs that are done that need a permit need to have a permit pulled, and it needs to have an inspection done, and then the work needs to be approved, because until those things happen, the work's really not done. I mean, sometimes people will perform electrical repairs and they'll say, well, I'm done. Well, if you didn't get a permit and get it approved, it doesn't count. So just make sure that those permits are pulled. I know you mentioned the roof, Mr. Yousefi. Make sure you pull a permit for the roof so the county inspectors can be involved. And then at the end of the day, we'll know that all the repairs are done properly.
I'm glad you brought it up because I put a lot of emphasis on that. You cannot touch anything. Did you get the permit? Yes. Is the guy certified? Yes. I did this. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you.
And at the end of the day, there needs to be a certificate of occupancy for the building,
Definitely.
which the county would approve and issue as soon as everything's up to code.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions or anything? All right, board, we've heard all the testimony. Does anyone care to make a motion here?
I'd like to make a motion of property 0018-20, 1079 South Arlington Street. I'd like to give them a 30-day extension, have the building registered for this year, have the trash and debris cleaned up from around the building, have an date set for inspection for Mr. Johnson and the fire inspector, and come back to and try to complete any damages that need to be done within that 30 days and come back to us next month.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Giuseppe, you've got a 30-day extension of time. I hope that we can see a lot of progress when we see you back here
Thank
next
you,
month.
sir. Okay, no, we have
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Mr. Giuseppe. Can I address it to John York, please?
Right now?
Yeah, John,
Yes,
you said in your questioning, or the last comment you made was that after proper repairs have been made, certified as habitable and up to code, then their certificate of occupancy would be entered.
that's my understanding.
So,
The county issues certificates of occupancy, and I don't believe they give one until they determine that it fits, you know,
okay,
that it would be appropriate. So I don't think you can get a certificate of occupancy while certain repairs are still required, like electrical.
okay.
Maybe there's a stairway missing, a hole in the floor,
Yeah.
things like that. So
So-
that, you know, the city really doesn't issue those. Those are from the county.
I understand that, but my question is, if Mr. Giuseppe is making progress and can be established on the record, such as the trash and the other things, and he's working toward getting the certificate of occupancy, that may not be completed within 30 days.
No,
not
I
because-
think what the board,
We're
what
not
the board's
expecting
trying
that.
to do, Mr. Williams, they are trying to give him, you know, he's asked for 90, but they're not comfortable granting him the full 90 and then coming back and see if he's done. I think they're going to want him to clear certain hurdles, like
All right.
after 30 days, do something, and then possibly if he's satisfied them, maybe he gets 30 more and then possibly 30 more. But those are just going to be matters for discussion, you know, at future
Well,
meetings.
that's what I wanted clarification on, is that he has to be making significant progress, not just promises or statements, but actual, that can be verified with testimony.
Right, right. And I think part of what's going on here with the request for the inspection or the requirement for the inspection from the board is that the city and your client need to get a full understanding of what the defects are. Because he might realize that he just doesn't want to take this on, and it would be better for him to realize that early.
Fair enough. I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. Thank you, John.
Sure.
Can I ask one more question, sir?
We need to move on, Mr. Giuseppe.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. With that one resolved for the time being, we are moving on to case number 22-20.
Mr. Rowland,
Mr. York.
sorry to interrupt. Did we take a vote on that, or was there just a motion on the floor?
Yeah, it was a vote.
Okay,
It
sorry
was
about that.
unanimous
Thank you.
for 30-day time extension.
Thank you.
Okay, so case number 22-20, the address is 2237 East Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, case number 0022-20, address of 2237 East Avenue. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this building is vacant, dilapidated, and not registered in the VBR. The dilapidated conditions of this property makes it a public nuisance and a blight and safety hazard to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here to speak on behalf of this building? None. Anyone to speak against?
I see Mr. Watkins. Mr. Watkins,
yeah.
it appears you're here to testify about this building.
He's on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir? And you need to unmute your microphone.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Mr. Watkins, are you in favor of demolition or opposed to demolition?
Right now, I'm opposed to it. I'd like to see what I can do to restore the building.
Okay, sir. I just wanted to know what you'd be speaking about. I'm going to go ahead and swear you in so you can testify.
Okay.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Watson, go ahead and tell us your thoughts on this building.
I purchased the building a while back, and by the time I got the deed on it, the roof had caved in on a portion of it. So I've been wanting to try to restore the building, but I've just had some financial issues that have kept me from doing that with the current situation with the virus and everything else. I'm not getting rent from from some of my buildings, and I'm just running low on it. But I guess really the whole thing is I haven't really delved too deeply into what it would cost to recover the building. So I'm talking to Mr. Valley. He mentioned that there's a demolition waiver program that I was not aware of. So I need to look into that. And I also need to get a hold of an architect and see what it would cost me to get started to try to restore it. So I'm just here to basically ask for some time to try to figure out what to do with it.
Okay. How long have you owned it?
Probably about 8 years.
Okay. And has it been vacant that entire time?
Yes, it has. I've used it for basically a warehouse to store tools and ladders and things like that, just to keep them secured so no one can get, can take them. And that's basically what I would plan to do in the future if I can restore it. Just use it as a warehouse for materials and supplies and tools.
Okay. Have you received communications from the city about this?
Back in the spring, I think it was, I received my first notification on that the building was considered dilapidated, and that and at that time it was just after, I guess it was spring, but it was shortly after that big storm we had last fall. The siding and stuff had been peeled away from the front of the building, and I had reset it back up, but I had not fully preserved it. And I just recently replaced all that siding on it, so that now it doesn't look bad. I think you have a photo there that hopefully you have a photo there that I had sent for what the building looks like today.
Most recent photo we have is from the 20th of August.
Okay, well, in that case, it's still showing it with the siding in poor condition. It's been fully re-sided on the front now.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, I can testify to the fact that that has been repaired. And I also want to correct myself. I stated that he was not registered. He is registered in the VBR, and he registered for 2019 and 20.
Okay, good. Back to Mr. Watkins. I know there's a lot going on right now, but how much time do you figure you need to figure out what you want to do with this building?
I would with it being fall and getting into the winter and so later, if I could have maybe a year to try to get it figured out and get it repaired.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I do not think the board is going to grant a time period of that long, with at least not coming back for progress reports.
Okay.
You stated earlier you wanted to look into the waiver program.
Yeah, all I understand on that is that the city has the waiver program. The city will assist up to $10,000 to have the building demolished.
So that is an option, is what you're saying.
Yes. I mean, I talked in the spring, I talked to Butchers and Sons. They do building demolishing and got an estimate from them. But I understand they're not the people that you all use in that demolition program. So I need to figure out how much demolition will cost me versus trying to restore the building.
Okay. Members of the board, turn it over to you. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Nobody else? Mr. Johnson, what are the city's thoughts on this one?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the city of Akron would be okay with giving him 30 days to figure out what he wants to do in that time period, either fill out the waiver information that I believe he should have already, and have a structural engineer, professional roofer, architect give him an estimate and a guideline of when that other work could be done, and if he is willing to do so, and come back in 30 days and let the board know where he's at with that.
Are there any sort of inspections that you'd want to do in the meantime?
We've already been there, had a chance to look inside. We understand what the conditions are and the circumstances. So I would not expect or feel that we would need to inspect it until once he got the work done, if he decides to do it.
Okay. Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone here to speak against? All right, Mr. Watkins, before I ask for a motion, is there anything you want to add?
No, sir.
Okay, with that, I'd ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion in regards to case number 22-20, 2237 East Avenue. I'd like to move for a 30-day extension so as to give Mr. Watkins time to consider his options of demolition or rehabilitation of his property.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Watkins, you have a 30-day extension of time. I would encourage you to maybe speed up your plans or at least what you plan to do, and come back next month and tell us what you're thinking.
Can I ask, do any of you have a rough idea what the cost of demolishing a building with, you use Bertoli, I believe, is that correct?
Well, I'm gonna just, if it's just information that you need, I'm gonna ask that you do that outside the scope of this meeting. We've already been tied up here quite a bit, and I think that's something that the city can get you though.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
he can contact the demolition department, and either Ms. Diefendorf or Ms. Brinson will give him that information.
Very good.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you
Mr.
very
Watkins.
much.
All right, good luck. Thank you. All right. Next item is 23-20, and that's 1655 South Hawkins Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, case number 0023-20, address of 1655 South Hawkins Avenue. This building is,
Mr. Johnson?
yes,
Mr. Johnson, could you wait for just a minute? I think Lance is letting the interested parties in. I just want to make sure they get a chance to hear what you're going to testify to.
okay.
Lance, do we have Antonio Bryant and Noel Johnson here on this?
Yes, you have
Can
Noel.
you hear me? This is Noel Johnson.
You have Noel Johnson and Antonio Bryant.
Do we have a Yvonne Scott?
No, Yvonne Scott.
Is she
I
in the-
have a, Mr. Chairman and Mr. York, I have an email statement from Yvonne Scott that I'll read into the record at the proper time.
Okay, thank you. It seems that we have everyone here. So Mr. Johnson, George Johnson, you can go ahead and proceed.
Okay. Case number 0023-20, address of 1655 South Hawkins Avenue. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this building is vacant, dilapidated, police activity. At the time of this report, the owner's whereabouts were unknown, tax delinquent, not registered in the VBR. The deteriorated conditions of this property is a public nuisance and a blight and safety hazard to the surrounding neighborhood. It's tax delinquent in the amount of $25,082.62.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Who do we have here to speak for behalf of this building?
Antonio
My name is
Bryant.
Noel Johnson. I'm here on behalf of Antonio Bryant, and my client, Mr. Bryant, is here as well.
All right. What can you tell us about all this?
This is a building. I was unaware of the tax delinquencies, but Mr. Bryant does intend to utilize the building. He has been in active communications with potential tenants for the building. He recently has spent money to make roof repairs to the building and is fully interested in intent and would take whatever measures necessary to bring the building up to whatever code. My client has not been unavailable. He was able to be contacted for this hearing. He's unaware of any criminal activity at the building, and he just wishes to be able to bring the building up to whatever necessary standards that this board deems necessary to avoid demolishing it and to continue to be able to try and lease it out to a tenant for a fruitful business.
Okay, is the building vacant?
Currently, yes, it is.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, could I swear in Mr. Bryant?
Yes, please.
Mr. Bryant, could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give or have given so far is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, Mr. Bryant, your attorney has stated a willingness on your part to fix the building up. What about actual plans? What is anything?
I actually have someone that has the interest in renting the space out. The grass has been being cut, I want to say the last 2-3 months. And I'm actually meeting this person at one of my places of business on next week, the 16th, for a tenancy in this building. We currently had other people prior try to rent the space, but were denied to occupy the space with a liquor license due to there's a church down the street. But the current person, I believe, wanting to turn this space into an event space for photo ops / small parties, I think it'll be worth trying.
Okay, what needs to be done specifically to get the building ready for that?
I would say small renovations on the inside because I did have repairs done to the roof when I first purchased this property, which was not even 8 years ago.
Okay. The tax delinquency is pretty big. Do you have a plan for that?
Yes, I am leveraging other businesses and monies in other spaces, as we know business goes and with the current economic situation. But I do have things in the making for liquefying some of the assets to take care of some of the debts that are lingering on some of my other affairs.
How soon do you expect to get your tenant in there?
I wouldn't think that it would take longer than 60 days for them to occupy the space, because they're actually flying out to sit with me on this space. They told me there's something that they have been thinking about for quite some time, so they have a high interest in this space.
Okay. All right, members of the board, turn it over to you for any questions. None. Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
I guess two things. One, would they need to register? And two, do you need to make inspections here?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 419 and 20. Also, Mr. Chairman, if you would like me to, I have a statement from a neighbor. If you'd like me to read that now, or
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
okay. This is from Yolanda Scott. I live beside the subject building and it looks awful. There is a person living outside in the back of the building at the entrance doorway. There's trash, mold, mildew, rats, high grass. It smells really bad because she dumps her bodily waste over the side of the building walls into the high grass. People also use it as a hangout place for drinking wine, beer, alcohol, liquor, smoking grass, smoking drugs, loud music, fighting, and cursing. Often at night, I hear gunshots. I call the city of Akron all the time for the high grass to be cut. I've been cutting the grass in the back myself. The subject property brings down the value of my home. I've lived here since 1986. I'm 77 years old, and I am not able to continue doing this. I have heart problems, bad knees, carpal tunnel in my right hand, and a lot of other health problems. I would love to see this building demolitions. While meeting and talking and taking place, while this meeting is taking place, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And she leaves her phone number and says, thank God.
Can I comment?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Yeah, please go ahead.
I don't know this woman personally, but I'm very, very active in the urban space, and most of the complaints that she has as far as shooting, I don't think that has anything to do with a building, because a building has to be open and operating for it to, be a part of people shooting. I think that has more so to do with the neighborhood that she lives in. No disrespect to her, but previously we had encounters with her asking for monetary gains, basically, for us to use a slight easement that she, I believe, owns. And the previous person that had the building, because I bought this building in an auction, the previous person that had the building was storing drug money, I believe, in the building. And that's kind of why it's been a hindrance to the neighborhood because of the previous owner. That's why I've been kind of skeptical about what business to put in the building. But I don't believe this building has that much effect on her livelihood because, as again, I do have receipts for the grass being manicured. I'm open doors for any inspections. I'm open doors for any resolution to bring this building to something that can be occupied and effective in the community. Although I have business in other spaces, I don't want to get into digging for people vouching for what I do in the community or how I know how to bring these buildings back to life. But it has been some time to get this building going, although we know in the economy and the space is very slow there. Not a lot of people have the money to come in and make the investment on the space. You know what I mean? And even me for myself to invest in the space is hectic because I'm out of state. But I don't think that the woman that's living behind the building, once occupancy happens, that woman will actually have to, obviously move away anyway because someone will be there daily taking care of this space. So we're not there to, I am aware that she is living back there, but we're not there to, get her off that property as of yet.
Well, a lot there. When was the last time you had a tenant there?
I want to say the last attempt for a tenant was 2 years ago.
Well,
And they
I'm
kind of
not
trashed
saying
the
attempt,
space.
I'm saying an actual tenant in the building.
Well, she was an actual tenant, and they defaulted on the rents, and we actually had to go to court for that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Pope.
Mr. Bryant, how long have you owned the building, and are you aware of the people that she say is hanging around there, and have you been there and noticed any of that activity?
I'm aware that there is, because I do have the pictures for the people that maintenance the property of the woman living outside of the building. We do have the building locked and secured, so there isn't anyone living in the building. And I'm very unaware of any gatherings of any groups at the building because there's only just a small overhead to come into the building that I don't think can hold large gatherings of groups of people. So I'm very unaware of anybody. I know we blocked off the entrance and the exit so people can stop driving through that as they have for years, even before I owned this property. That's just something they do in that neighborhood.
Okay, and how long have you owned this building?
Since I think I purchased this one in 2011.
Okay, that's all the questions I have right now.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else to offer up any questions, comments? Anyone else here to speak in favor of this? Anyone to speak against? Just one last question from me for Mr. Bryant. Excuse me. There's quite a history we have here of high grass and weeds violations, some police activity, and this looks like it covers the last couple of years. You're also tagged for inspection. Do you have any comments on that?
I'm very unaware of any police activity at all.
Well, what about the high grass and weed violations?
I'm very aware of the high weed and grass. I have no problem with curing the violations. But again, I have no problems with inspection, as I know this maintenance on the grass and high weeds has been going on for about 2 or 3 months. And I do have receipts.
Okay. Well, we certainly would like to see something happen here, but I gotta tell you, the tax delinquency is pretty big. That's a big hurdle there. And then, I mean, the city needs to inspect, you need to register in VBR. So there's a lot of things that you would need to do. Are you prepared to do all of
Yes,
those things to get?
Yes, I can get it done.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sir, I can get it done.
All right. Mr. Johnson, any more thoughts from the city about this one?
No, the city stands with its original recommendation.
And that is to demolish?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before I ask for a motion, does the attorney wish to weigh in on anything?
Yes, sir. I appreciate the opportunity. My client is more than willing to schedule any necessary inspections for the property. As he stated, he's trying to have a meeting within the next few weeks to have a tenant in place. As far as registering, he can have that done within the next 48 hours if necessary, as long as he's capable of doing so. As far as the taxes, obviously he said he's making arrangements to take care of that. I know that the bill, I think he said, was in excess of $25,000 or approximately that. This is something that's within his means. He's now aware of it, and he's going to make every effort to handle that. And as far as the people that were alleged to be either hanging out or the homeless people, as we all know, getting rid of homeless people out of areas that are unoccupied is a difficult task. But now that he has people on a regular basis there maintaining the property as well as knowledge of ongoing activity there, he will make every effort to have either a custodian or someone else there to alleviate that matter. I think that would address every concern that the neighbor issued and the concerns of the city regarding any outstanding violations. And we believe that it would be unjust and unnecessary at this time to demolish a building that is in the process of being scheduled for renovation and put to good use in the neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak either way or against?
Definitely would like to see some type of time limit or something, at least for the opportunity to, make it happen.
Okay. All right then. Board, I guess I would ask for a motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion on case number 23-20, 1655 South Hawkins Avenue. I'd like to give a 30-day extension to get the delinquents tax taken care of in a manner that's acceptable to the city, the registration, and to have the debris and squatters or whoever's hanging around the building taken care of. And then give that 30 days. I hope that he can have this satisfied to where he won't have complaints from the neighbors and to possibly have a tenant.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Johnson.
could we impose upon the board to make sure that he registers for 2019 and 2018, and 2020, 19 and 20, as well as have a fire inspection and myself inspected within those 30 days? Can we have that added, please?
Yes, I think so. Mr. Polk, would you care to make those
Yes.
additions to your motion?
Yes, I also like to add that he have the building registered for 2019, 2020, and have an inspection by the fire and Mr. Johnson himself.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, Mr. Bryant, you have 30 days to get things moving. We hope to hear much progress when you come back next month.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is there a specific date for a hearing next month, or are we just gonna have it?
It's always the second Wednesday of the month, so whatever day that is on the, I don't know.
It'll be October 14th, October 14th
Thank you.
at 9 a.m.
And will it be the same Zoom meeting information?
Yes.
Most likely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Next item, is case number 24-20, 1207 and 1215 Schweitzer Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, case number 0024-20, address of 1207 and 1215 Schweitzer Avenue.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
before you get started, let me just make sure the participants are in. It looks like one's just connecting now. Okay, Mr. Wallace and Mr. Knapp, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, George Johnson is going to give the board a summary of the property. Just wanted to make sure you were present.
Yes, sir. I think Mr. Knapp is present as well, although I can't see him necessarily on my screen. I'm not sure if you can.
Mr. Knapp, are you present?
I was communicating with him earlier, and I know that he was in queue waiting.
I
So-
see his name on the screen. I just don't see his face, or I cannot hear him.
Mr. Knapp, you would need to unmute yourself, which you should be able to see with a red icon or by hovering over your name if you are present. Sorry to interrupt everybody, just trying to help out. But I was talking to him earlier, and I know for a fact he was waiting in the queue with me and watching on YouTube while everything else.
Mr. Knapp, are you there?
I'm trying to get there. I can see
Okay.
you guys.
You can hear us though.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, well, why don't we proceed then with Mr. Johnson's summary?
Everybody ready?
Yes.
All right, case number 0024-20, address of 1207, 1215 Schweitzer Avenue. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this building is vacant, open, dilapidated, police activity. At the time of this report, whereabouts of the owner was unknown, tax delinquent, and not registered in the VBR. The extreme deterioration condition of this property is a public nuisance and a blight and safety hazard to the surrounding neighborhood. Owner is tax delinquent in the amount of $13,978.11.
Thank you. So who is here to speak in favor of this building?
Charles Knapp?
Okay, Mr. Knapp, we're gonna have to get you sworn in. You're not able to get video at all?
I can see you.
We
You
can't
click
see
the,
you.
you might have a camera icon on your screen. If you could click on the camera.
Oh, man. This is my first Zoom meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Um,
It's probably real close to where your microphone icon is.
For me, it was where there were 3 blue dots, if that helps at all. And I clicked on those dots and I was able to do something with the video.
oh, Jesus. No, I start video.
Yes.
All right, let me see if, use your camera a lot. Can you guys see me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, we sure
Okay.
can now.
All right, well, all right, thanks.
Mr. Knapp, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so, Mr. Knapp, are you the owner of the building?
Yeah, it's a family owned. I'm one of the owners, yes.
Okay, and Mr. Wallace, what's the nature of your relationship there?
I am a representative. I'm an attorney for a demolition company that entered into a contract with the entity that owns the premises.
Okay,
Mr. Knapp.
all right. Mr. Knapp, why don't you go ahead and tell us what's going on here?
Well, the building is vacant. Manufacturing operations ceased in 2017. At that time, well, my brother was my business partner. He passed away. I had health problems. And so then in 2017, there was no more manufacturing. 2018, we continued doing office work, wrapping stuff up. And then vandals broke in and trashed everything where we could no longer even go into the office portion of it. And basically, since then, it's been sitting empty. And that's why then when the COVID started, it was my intention to start earlier in the year to get the building knocked down. COVID hit, and then a week or two ago, I finally thought it's time, let's get it done before the end of the year, before we go into another friggin' year. So that's when I contacted Jim Wallace. That's the company that's, that knocks buildings down or demolishes buildings. And we entered into a contract last week for him to do that, to get the building knocked down. And that's where I'm at.
Okay, so you are having it knocked down.
Yes.
Very good. So, Mr. Johnson, was the city aware of what the plans were?
Yes, the city has received some emails from, I believe, a contractor and Mr. Knapp. We also received a blank contract from someone saying that they were going to, from Mr. Knapp, being that the contract was blank and unsigned, we didn't feel it was, anything that we could do anything with. But at this time, if he is willing to demolition the building, we are perfectly fine with that, of course. But we would also like to ask the board to order a demo just as a backup. If it doesn't happen, then we want to proceed with demolition through our normal process under these conditions.
Okay. Would registration be required here?
I would say 19, but if you have to demolish in 20, I would be able to wait.
Okay, the director feels that he should register it for 2019, but if it is demolished before the end of the year, he would waive the 2020 registration fee.
Okay. Well, there doesn't seem to be anything at dispute here. One way or the other, it's going to get demolished. Is that correct?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Knapp.
Yeah. I want, because we just entered in the contract and Mr. Wallace's company, they're going through the permitting process. So is it possible to have like a 30-day extension of this meeting for him to get all the permits, to get everything lined up?
If I can
comment, we'll need that. But Mr. Wallace, how much time do you need to get what you need to get started?
Well, sir, I too would ask for a 30-day extension on any order regarding the demolition. We're coming into some issues where there may be some differences in the requirements for demolition when a property is ordered versus not ordered to be demolished, which is a first for me.
What differences specifically? What does that mean?
My father's been, I also am working for a family ran business and family operated business. He's been doing this for more than 40 years. He's operating out of Summit County. And so he's done some buildings in Akron and Summit County and usually travels for the most part. We have always torn down structures to the concrete pad, and we leave the pad in place because properties can be repurposed. There can be other uses. There can be all sorts of things that, reasons why we do such. In over 40 years, we've never taken out the concrete pad. We've always left it in place. And it's my understanding there could be an issue where if the building is ordered to be torn down, then the concrete pad may need to be removed and may need to go 3 feet below the concrete pad, which would prohibit us from demolishing the property. And quite frankly, this is not a very profitable endeavor for us. We're doing it for the scrap value of what's in the building, which is minimal at best. And so I don't think that there'll be any other demolition company that would ever do it for this type of consideration. But as my father gets older, he's trying to stay closer to home, and we have the COVID issues. So being out of Summit County, this is an endeavor he's willing to take on. So if we could have 30 days to figure out exactly what is going on, because we've received some mixed responses and there's some confusion, I believe that I can either tell you affirmatively that we do have a contract already entered into, but I can tell you whether or not the demolition can be completed based upon our contract, or I can tell you that it cannot. We just have some issues out there that need to be addressed. And I was lucky enough to speak to the City of Akron Law Department yesterday, and we discussed this openly yesterday, and they expressed a willingness to work with me into figuring out these answers so that these questions, so that we can get to a final resolution. But we are working actively to get this done. Today, an environmental company is on site right now, actually, to do an environmental assessment to make sure that there's no environmental hazards like asbestos that would be problematic or need removed prior to demolition. So we want to get it done and we want to do the project. We just have some issues in the permitting process.
Thank you. Mr. York, would that be you that spoke with yesterday?
Yes, I did speak with Mr. Wallace yesterday. There was discussion about whether the city would require the slab to be removed. I don't think we have a clear answer to that yet, at least not that I've been able to firm up. So 30 days may actually benefit the city to kind of get to the bottom of that issue. Also, I wondered if anyone had spoken to Mr. Knapp about the demolition waiver program. I don't know if you know the answer to that, Mr. Johnson.
No, there's been no discussion that I know of, or Rachel, who's sitting right here, that has had any discussion about that.
I mean, 30 days could possibly give the opportunity for Mr. Knapp to consider another option, which would be the demolition waiver program. And just briefly, Mr. Knapp, the city could assist you with the cost of demolition of up to $10,000. So I don't know what the size of this building is or how much it might cost, but that would be something to possibly consider. That could even be considered whether the board, orders it demolished today or not.
And what's that called, a demolition waiver program?
Yes, you would basically be saying that the building should be demolished, and you don't dispute that. And the city has a program that pays for a portion of the demolition up to $10,000.
And would I be able to, with the contract with Mr. Wallace, that would still be valid?
No, you'd have to use the city's, the city would use its own contractor.
Well,
so right now, the city's price would compare to what Mr. Wallace may be giving you. In that case, it may not make sense for you to go with the city's waiver program. It might make sense for you to go with Mr. Wallace's company.
Yeah, right now, top of my head, I would think that's the best way, because the company is insolvent. Like, there's back taxes owed. There's, it's the best bet for everybody is to let Mr. Wallace knock it down for the scrap value. That takes care of the nuisance value, and he gets paid through the scrap that's generated as he cuts it down. For anybody else, if there was bills made, they would be unpaid like the taxes.
Right. That's my understanding. The dispute right now, or the hang up, is whether or not the concrete pad's going to be required to be removed.
I think so, yeah. Mr. Wallace can speak to that, yeah. That's, like, we signed the contract last week, and I've turned it over to him now.
Well, I think we already heard the issue with that. I don't think we need to rehash that. Does that go through the building department then? The answer to that question ultimately is answered by the building department? Or?
The permit for demolition would be issued by the Plans and Permits Office. And the Plans and Permits Office has requirements of, how the demolition would need to be performed in order for issuing that permit.
And is, in your opinion, 30 days a reasonable enough time to ascertain the answer?
I believe it is.
All right. Anyone else to speak in favor of this? Anyone to speak against? Okay, board, we've heard the testimony, basically a 30-day recommendation to figure out some things. With the condition to register in 19. Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for case 24-20, 1207 to 1215 Schweitzer Avenue. I'd like to move to give a 30-day extension to give Mr. Knapp time to confirm the issues discussed today for the demolition, and also require him to register with the vacant building registry for the year 2019.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Opposed? All right. You've been granted 30 days time. Please do everything you can to get your questions answered so that when you come back next month, we'll have a plan of action.
All right, question. Where do I register for what you want me to register for?
Mr. Johnson, go ahead.
Rachel Burnside says she will register, she will email him the information that he needs to get that done.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We have come to the last of the administrative case hearings. This is case number 25-20. The address is 349 East Waterloo Road.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, case number 0025-20, address of 349 East Waterloo Road. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this property is vacant, dilapidated, owner's whereabouts unknown, not registered in the VBR. The extreme dilapidated conditions of this property is a public nuisance and a blight and a hazard to the surrounding neighborhood. And at the proper time, I do have a statement emailed to us with a letter from the councilman in that area.
Okay, thanks. So zero contacts. History of high grass litter. Okay, anyone here to speak for this property and building? Anyone to speak against? Mr. Johnson, why don't you go ahead and read the letter that you have from the councilman?
This letter is from Councilman Donnie Kamer, Councilman of Ward 7. He states, I am unable to attend September 9th VBR hearing, although I would like to share my concern about 349 East Waterloo Road for the record. I get complaints about this property from surrounding businesses, as well as staff and parents from the students at the Voris Community Learning Center. Every year I receive several phone calls regarding high grass and conditions outside of this property, which includes trash on the property and chipping from the paint from the building. Sincerely yours, Donnie Kamer, Councilman Ward 7.
All right, thank you. No one here to speak for or against. History of complaints. Unknown owner. Board members, unless you have thoughts or questions, I would ask for a motion here.
I'd like to make a motion on case number 25-20, 349 East Waterloo to have this building demoed due to the poor conditions that was stated of extreme deterioration, condition of the building, public nuisance, blight to the community, and unsafe hazardous surrounding. And also a complaint from the councilman of that area. And therefore, I would say that this building should be demoed.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this one's moved and voted for demolition. Do we need a minute or can we move on?
I'm ready if you guys are.
All right, let's do it. We have some review case hearings, the first of which is 3-20, address 1090 Brown Street.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, case number 0003, address of 1090 Brown Street was last reviewed August 12, 2020. At that time, the board did not grant the property owner's request for another 60 days review to complete the interior work. As of yesterday, Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, the interior work was not complete. If the board needs me to read what the statement was from the city of Akron for last June 10th meeting, I am ready to do so.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. Go ahead.
All right, at the last meeting, we stated they agreed to a 60-day review to remove all trash and clean up of the property, obtain a certificate of occupancy. I found that they have gotten most of the work done and are working towards getting the building ready to be occupied. The building manager gave me a copy of a receipt from Summit County that stated it was a payment for the certificate of occupancy. He also requested another 60 days to complete all work needed to put a business in place. At the August 12th, 2012 hearing, the city of Akron did request the board to grant the owner his request for a 60-day with the understanding that the next review hearing, if this building was not 100% ready to be occupied by a legitimate business, the city of Akron will be requesting for this building to be demolitioned.
Okay. So that was the last meeting, and today we're saying he's not done.
He's not done.
Has he done anything?
Yeah, he's made some progress. They're
Okay.
doing something. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
How
is he
close-
here? Is anyone here to speak in favor of this? Nobody?
Mr. Bell, is Mr. Geith in the waiting room?
No, he is not.
Mr. Johnson, did you have any contact with Mr. Geist, and did you expect him today?
I expected him today. I had spoken with him on the phone twice. His building manager. I've spoken to the person that was doing the actual restoration work of the building probably 3 times. Last time I was there was yesterday, about 4:30. And you guys should have those recent pictures. I was also there and spoke with them last week. I fully expected for one of those two to be on the call.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Johnson, do you know how close he is to having this completed?
If he was given the 60 days, I believe he could have gotten it done. I believe he could have gotten it done, you know, but he's close enough to where I would be, if they keep at this pace, I would be comfortable saying that if we gave him another 30 days, that it should be done. If they continue at this pace.
Okay, thank you.
Can we say that you're at least somewhat satisfied at the progress,
I'm somewhat satisfied,
but not completely?
not complete. Correct.
Well, very disappointing he's not here. Very disappointing. All right. Well, I guess there's nobody to question or anything. I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, did you say you asked for a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion on the review case of 0003-20 1090 Brown Street. Due to the owners not being here, not knowing if there's an emergency situation that erupts on their way or not, and that Mr. Johnson is somewhat satisfied with the work being done and expect that it can be done in 30 days. I say that I will be willing to give him another 30 days. And if not completed by then, we can go forward with the demo.
Okay. We have a motion. Anyone care to second? Okay, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. Ms. Alexander, did you vote? We can't hear you.
I believe she abstained.
Okay. Mr. York, where does that leave us?
I'm sorry, this is Renee. I abstained. I did see Lauren's hand go up in favor. I don't know if she can, I know it sounds like we can't hear her, but
Yeah, we can't hear.
maybe she can confirm that.
You're in favor?
votes yes. Okay.
That means you're in favor of the motion. Give us a thumbs up if you're in favor of the motion. Okay, so.
Okay, so we are okay.
I believe you have 3 in favor and 1 abstention, so the motion would carry.
Okay. I wanted to be sure. I didn't hear that. Okay. Very good. We're good to go.
Right.
Next case is 8-20, and this is 355 Morgan Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, case number 008-20, address of 365 Morgan Avenue, last reviewed June 20th, 2020. The board ordered the property to have all garbage and rubbish removed, keep the property free of rubbish. Here is construction. I don't know what's going on. Can you still hear me?
I can, but there's a lot of interference going on.
Mr. Shaw, if you could mute your speaker for now, sir.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear you guys, so.
Yeah, we just need you to mute your speaker for a moment.
Okay, all righty. Just give me 1 minute. I don't know where my phone is. Okay, so let me pull on the side. Can you hold on for a second? I'm driving, so.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, I think maybe we got a shot to move forward. Go ahead.
Okay. At that time, the board ordered the property to have all garbage, rubbish removed and keep the property free of refuge. Secure the structure and keep the structure secure. At this point, the owner and contract have struggled with keeping up their end of the order. Mr. John Valley has been in contact with the contractor on these issues.
And the photos we have are updates on that.
Those are the last photos that I took. That are out there.
Good. Okay, I think we need to bring Mr. Shaw back in now. Mr. Shaw, you want to unmute and tell us what's going on?
And Mr. Shaw, before you get started, I'm going to swear you in.
Hello?
Yes.
You have video, Mr.
Yes,
Shaw?
sir. Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you connect your video so that we'll be able to see you by camera?
Actually, I am on the phone. I'm on the way to Youngstown.
Okay, sir, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand.
Okay. Just let me pull on the side of the road again. Just give me 1 second. All righty, sir.
Sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Shaw, tell us what's been going on for the last 60 days.
The last 60 days, I think about a month ago, I met you at the site. We secured the Bank Street. I know the Morgantown, we secured the back part of it, except for the boat part of it. There is some boat and some trash that is in the back. That is in the pond itself.
What did you do to secure the building?
We've had it put the plywood on the doors again. And the New Jersey barrier, or the barriers are there so nobody can drive back to throw any tires or anything in there. But we have heard that that I hired to do the cleanup, some of the junk is coming from him after every time there's a cleanup.
Well, I have to say from the photos we have here, it does not look secure at all.
Okay. I've been in Texas since 26th. I'm on my way to Youngstown. I can be there day after tomorrow because we are doing, as I told you, some environmental work. And so I have a meeting with the engineers tomorrow in Youngstown, but I can be there day after tomorrow and try to re-secure it and put cameras on it again.
What's your ultimate
if we can.
plan?
And the only problem that I am having is the asbestos supervisor, because we have to do the asbestos work also at the same time in Bank Trent. He hasn't reported to work since we had laid him off in Ohio about 4 or 5 months ago. So we are looking for another supervisor at this time too.
What's your
because
ultimate
we had
plan
touched-
for this building, Mr. Shaw?
Sir?
What is your ultimate plan for this building?
No, we are with AST. They want to know if we can finance them, Mr. Paul, because the state won't put any money into if he builds into into a warehouse. So looking on that, we have involved CBRE Richards. They have found us a client on the Bank Street. On this one, they are seeing if they can either finance AST or Akron Steel Technologies, or if we can finance them for building it for them.
I gotta be honest with you,
They
I'm not
want
sure you follow a word you said. I don't know who any of those people are. What are you gonna do with this building?
We want to build it into a manufacturing plant for AST, Akron Steel Technologies, which are our neighbors to the other side of us. They were looking for some state money because they're moving their operations out of Cleveland, and the state will not give them for operations that are within the state. So they have asked us if we would finance part of it for them.
All right. Mr. Johnson, what did we ask them to have done by today?
They needed to have the garbage cleaned up and the refuge cleaned up and secure the building.
Mr. Shaw, just hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Shaw.
And we also would like to know, are they going to refurbish the building or demo it and build new?
No, this has to be demoed completely.
Okay.
Completely, and the pond has to be an area that we can build it on too. So the pond, we'll have to involve that if we stop the fissures from, I've been talking to some people that if the water comes from somewhere, and if we stop that, would it come out of some other place, like down the park, or is that the outlet for that? That's the only thing, and the only way we could tell is once the pond is drained, that where it is coming from, because if hopefully it's not a leak or anything from storm drains or anything, but if that is stopped and we put concrete on it, would it rise somewhere else? And that is our biggest concern on that one.
Mr. Chairman, what they were required to do was secure the building and remove the garbage.
Yeah. Well, it appears to me
we have done it like 3 times, but other than putting up, I can put a fence over there. Bank Street, we completely secured it. We put some, the only people are now on the forest behind the building. That is not on our property at all. So we have done that with Bank Street completely. But what I can do is add another layer of fencing in the front. Would that suffice?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson.
We'd like to ask the contractor, does he have a timeline as to when he can start demolition of this property?
I couldn't hear you, sir. You came, what did you say?
What
is your timeline for demolition?
And drainage.
The timeline, timeline for them, if I can send you something, I've been in Texas because of the hurricane in Louisiana, but if I can send you tomorrow when I go to Youngstown, if you can give me about till next Monday so I can send you everything in writing that when we can go off this, because it's a remediation, and the more we dig, the more we have found, and then between the rains and that. So if you can give me a couple of days when I talk to the engineers at this remediation site, I can give you exact timetables. But we can start draining the pond and securing it. That we can do it in next 15, 20 days. And I'm gonna coordinate with the city if we can drain it into the storm water.
Okay.
But as far as the security is concerned, Monday I can start putting the fence, if you think fence, because every time we put plywood, that's the best. The plywood, somebody for some reason, it gets yanked out. And there's nothing to steal in there, but I don't know. I mean, there's no copper, no metal, but it still gets yanked out. Either somebody wants to do drugs in there. I mean, I have no idea why it gets plywood. Charlie had double plywood. The only problem that I might have is with the boat, because I don't know on the possession part of it or what it is. Like, they wouldn't let us remove the cars from Bank Street until we had a junker's permit. But I can remove all the other pieces of that thing, and I can give a warning to the gentleman across the street for not to throw his cars and his car parts in our. I can legally warn him. That's the most I can do, and have it fenced. So, it's like breaking and entering or something else. I can take action if they do. But the most of the car parts and the tires are coming from across the street from me. And I had hired the same people to clean it up too. But after a cleanup, either I have to pay for the next 2 weeks of cleanup and, have it maintained. I talked to a couple of security companies. They will go and make a round, but they do not want to enter any buildings. They have told me that up front, that they will not enter any buildings to see if somebody, after it's broken or something like that, if there's somebody or something, they just don't want to enter those buildings. I've talked to 2 or 3 security companies and grounds and stuff like that, and see if the lock is broken or something to that effect. But I can start the fencing on Monday. No problem. I can put the fence right where people go towards the back. But most of the people I see that they are coming from the track side of it too, where the railway track is, on the back side. So if you recommend, I can have it cleaned up again, have fence put up, and give you a plan of draining. And as soon as we get the asbestos supervisor, the Bank Street is the first one we can start. And on this one also, we can start here. But I can give you actual in writing on Monday, if you would give me that time.
Mr. Chairman.
So I can give you a timeline.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson.
The city would be okay with a 60-day review, and for the contractor to submit his plans within the next 2 days, secure the property with fencing, and do his best to clean up and start the draining process as fast as possible.
All righty.
Okay.
And I would be there to talk with the city also on the storm drain system and stuff like that, so we have it all settled out in the next few weeks. When it and how and all that. The only thing that I think is that the city will have to work with me in case I have to stop the leak coming in. That if that does not raise the water table at somebody else's property or something to that effect, because that seems to be an outlet, there to that pond from somewhere.
All right.
So if you can direct me to some engineer or something that I can work with this, put the plan that would work with me on draining the water and then coming to because I don't, as I said, I really don't want the liability to plug that hole without the city knowing, or we have some engineering done and be accepted by the city that if we do block that water coming in, because I couldn't trace the fishes all the way, but it will give us a little better that where will that water go, because
Excuse me,
that
sir?
tends to. Yes, sir.
Do you have John Valley's contact information?
Yes, sir, I do.
Contact John Valley and he will work with you on those issues.
All righty, sir.
Anybody else need to question anything or weigh in? And the city would be okay with a 60-day extension of time to do some of these things we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else to speak for or against? All right. Anyone care to make a motion, members?
I'll make a motion for case 08-20 355 Morgan Avenue. I'd like to grant a 60-day extension to Mr. Shaw with the requirements that he secure the property with fencing, drain the property, and submit the plans to the city.
We have a second. Ms. Alexander raised her hand for a second. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, opposed.
Okay. One opposed, 3-1 for 60 days. Okay, Mr. Shaw, you got 60 days. Do your best to get some things done.
All right, sir, and I'll start the fencing right next week.
Very good. Sooner if possible.
All right, sir.
All right. One last item on the agenda. This is case number 13-20, and the address is 1015 East Talmadge Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, case number 0013-20, address of 1015 East Talmadge Avenue. Last case review was August 12th, 2020.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Just let me stop you for a minute, because I believe we're expecting attendees on this one. I just want to make sure they're in the room so they can hear you. Okay, so we have Mr. Shearer.
Here.
And we have Mr. Fard also?
Yes, sir.
Fard? Okay. Are we expecting a councilman?
No.
Lance, is there anyone else in the waiting room?
No, the waiting room is empty, and I would ask that you guys slow down as I add those that are interested in the case.
so that they can actually get in?
Exactly. So they can get in and actually hear what you're saying. So that takes like maybe 30 seconds from when we end one case and begin the next.
Okay, thank you.
But
They're
waiting
here
room is
now.
empty.
Yeah, they're here. Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Johnson could go ahead.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, case number 0013-20, address of 1015 East Talmadge Avenue. This case was last reviewed August 12, 2020. At that time, they agreed to remove all refuge and secure the building. The parking lot area has been cleaned up. On Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, myself and the fire inspector, Jamie Dixon, did inspect the interior building. The owner stated that the electricity issues were complete. The roof was almost completed, and the same with the interior cleanup. He also had about 80% of the painting completed on the east side of the exterior wall. At the time of the building, at this time, the building is secure. At that time, the owner also requested a 90-day review to complete all of the following: roof work, painting, interior cleanup, plus repair of the wooden ramp at the front of the building.
Okay. Mr. Ford, I see you're here with your attorney. You want to give us an update?
Yes, as Mr. Johnson mentioned, I met Fire Marshal and him at the property.
Mr. Fard?
Yes,
Fard, can I swear you in real quick?
sure.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The concern the fire marshal had was with the wires. Some wires was hanging on those. Those were all cleaned up. I showed it to them. There was about 15, 20 plug that was on the wall that he wanted it to be covered. Those were done. There was a little opening in the back door, which he wanted to be closed. That was done. So everything else on the interior was done. The wall that Mr. Johnson mentioned, there was a wall that he, last time I met him before yesterday, he mentioned if I paint that exterior wall, it would be a good gesture, which I started doing that and it was almost done. The only thing left was that ramp, which it's not a step, it's a wheelchair ramp, which I talked to the fire marshal that we're going to finish that one too. And the roof is done, almost 99% is done. And talking to them says, well, the 90 days would be fine. Everything would be taken care of. And that's, we ended up there.
And if I may, we also have a potential tenant. The potential tenant and I had a conversation yesterday where we're beginning to negotiate a lease. I've started to draft the lease, and that tenant is actually looking to get in there as soon as we can get the lease negotiated. So that might even happen before the end of next week.
So when will the ramp be taken care of?
Well, ramp, you know, as I said, if the tenants are moving in, that would make it faster.
The tenant has indicated to me that the tenant is, I should say potential tenant, is willing to do a lot of the continual revisions and build out for the property. So the tenant really wants to make it the tenant's space for what he intends to put in there. So if I get this lease drafted up, it sounds like he wants to get in there and start doing things immediately.
Has all this debris been cleaned up on the side of the building?
Yes, it did.
All right. Mr. Johnson, can you confirm that from being out there?
Yes, it has been cleaned up.
Okay. Are you satisfied with the progress that's been made here?
We are satisfied with the progress, but we would like to see that if any sort of review is given, whether it be 30, 60, or what he has requested, which is a 90, that we see a copy of a certified roofer and electrician that all this work was done up to code, and a certificate of occupancy be obtained for our files. And of course, Jamie and I would also need to do a final inspection.
Okay. Mr. Shear, is that something that's doable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Members of the board, I'll leave it to you for any questions.
I have no questions.
Okay. Well, sounds like decent progress has been made. I'm not sure I'm in support of 90 days, but I would support an extension of time. Someone wants to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on review case 0013-20, 1015 East Talmadge Avenue. I'm in with agreement with you. I'm not ready to give them a 90-day extension, but I'll give them a 60-day extension to get all of the repairs completed and bring it up to date to satisfaction of Mr. George.
Can we add that they would provide the certified copies that Mr. Johnson has asked for?
And to add the certified copies that Mr. Johnson had asked for. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Fard, you have 60 days. We'll see you then.
Thank you. All right, take care.
Any other business before the board this morning? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
I will be out to get signatures, everyone.
All right. Give me a heads up when, George.
I'll try and do it today if that's okay.
Uh,
Are you not in?
No, I'll be 5:15.
5:15 or so?
Is that too late?
No. Yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it. We'll take care.
Okay.
If anything changes, I'll give you a call.
Sounds good.
Okay.